Welcome back to this Wildcat Wednesday. We've got Wendy Powell in the studio. Wendy, I want to, number one, thank you for joining us, and I want to welcome you as part of the KOAM Wildcat District family.
Thank you.
Now, she is certainly no stranger to extension work. As a matter of fact, worked for Oklahoma State Extension for, what, 7 years?
7.5,
So
yes.
tell us what brings you to K-State Extension.
Well, I had the opportunity to come home.
Okay.
And so I just jumped right on that. And I have 2 small children, and so I got to bring them home closer to Grandma and Grandpa.
Well, congratulations and thank you for joining
thank you.
us. Now, there's no segue to do this. We're going to talk about internal parasites.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so when we talk about internal parasites, I have to ask you about warning signs that I need to look for.
Okay, so whenever you're looking for warning signs on your small ruminants, then you can judge them by their stool. Diarrhea is an indication, weight loss, or a lack of weight gain.
Okay.
Could go both ways there. Edema, so if there's any swelling under the jaw, that's a huge indication. Any anemia, and we can see anemia evidence by looking at the mucous membrane on their eye. Oh. And we use something called the FOMACHA scale to do that. Oh. Go ahead, give it a shot.
I want to get to the FOMACHA scale in just a second, but also too, I want to ask, are internal parasites, geographically speaking, what are we going to run into in our region that we need to be really wary of?
There's lots of worms in our area, and small ruminants and cattle pick that up just by grazing, especially as the grass gets shorter and closer to the ground. They're going to be grazing on those nubbins of grass, and they just ingest those worms. So the internal parasites that we're really talking about here is lots of different types of worms.
Okay, so let's say I've identified that I have an internal parasitic problem in my herd. How does the FOMACHA scale work?
Okay, so the FOMACHA scale works, you need to handle all of your animals, so it's nicer to have tamer animals. But you just you pull up the eyelid and you kind of pull down the lower part of the eyelid and you just look at the eye, and if it's nice and pink or healthy looking, and there's a chart you can look at, then that's evidence that there's good blood flow. And so some of these worms are blood-sucking critters, and so if they have anemia, it's because the worms have been, sucking their blood. And so you look at that eye color, and if it's white, then treatment is recommended. Let's
talk about treatment.
Okay.
Because while it can be scary to deal with in the beginning when you realize you have a problem, these are treatable.
Of course.
What do I do?
Okay, so really you need to work with your local vet to come up with a treatment plan. But there's also some strategies to work in your own individual herd. So some of the research has shown that 80% of the parasite load is in 20% of the animals.
Oh, wow.
And so using this FOMACHA scale, looking at all of your animals, you can decide which animals are those 20% that's highly affected.
So it's really identification is the first key?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And if you have a herd that you've done really good control on, if you're bringing in other animals, then doing some quarantine and
beat me to it. Okay.
Sorry, I stole your thunder again.
No. I was going to ask about the importance of quarantine. I guess what I was leading to was how aggressively can these internal parasites spread?
So anytime there's an animal in the herd that has worms and fecal matter gets on the ground in the same area where other animals are grazing, that's how it's spread. Okay. And small ruminants tend to not be as choosy when it comes to grazing.
Right.
So any grass that might be available, whether it's clean or not,
they don't take it.
might be eaten. So rotating pastures is one of the control options, making for sure that animals have been removed from that pasture long enough to have that worm load decrease. Also prescribed burn. Will work there because it literally burns any infection that might be there. But that rotational grazing system is a really good option to move animals around.
And so if you have any questions about internal parasites or you want to learn more about the FOMACHA scale, do not hesitate to give not only your local extension agent a call. Call Wendy. Wendy's here with us. She's part of the K-State KOM Extension Service family now, so we're going to put her vast knowledge to good use. Wendy,
Yes.
number one, I want to thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Number two, welcome. I hope we get to see you again.
You will.
And I will never forget the phrase Fumacha scale.
It's snappy.
Got it.
Snappy, famacha.
More KOM Morning News right after this.